officials who come in with a very good agenda can continue to represent their constituents the way that we need to. And those are civil rights, education issues, economic issues, drainage issues, access to health care. Those are civil rights issues, and the financing system actually makes it almost impossible after a certain amount of time for the very folks that we elect to really be able to stand up on those issues. And I know the same is true at a different level, at the federal level. One other, I'm almost done? Okay. A couple of other things I just want to mention as going towards the future. Media. Right now, on media, our sense of access to the media and what we really have that's grown is access to Spanish language media. We have a big challenge ahead of us on what do we do, is there a specific appeal, a specific message to second, third generation Latinos? And how do we access media to get that message so that we're not ghettoized just through the Spanish language media? And I think we have to figure out the media aspect of the civil rights organization for the coming period. I'm going to stop there, and maybe we can talk about more of these things later. Thank you.
So Tisha comes with us very, very experienced and has a very important charge in the southeastern region of the U.S. So, Tisha.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here, and I want to first say thank you for bringing the story of Willie Velazquez. What was said throughout the panels today is something that's a very important message. It's something that speaks to me personally in my work that I'm doing in the Southeast. And it speaks to many Latinos, and it's the story of the voiceless. And although circumstances may have changed, and yes, we have progressed, and by the very fact that we have this conference here today and we're talking about these issues demonstrates that, but we can't forget those who are at the other end of the spectrum. And that's my perspective. I do work in the Southeast. We do work in 11 states in the Southeast, and the jurisdiction represents 13% of the total Latino population. And that's not to even touch on the increasing immigrant population that's also moved into the Middle West. Also, at the same time, we need to realize that the numbers that we know of that exist through census collection is grossly underestimated. There are millions of immigrant Latinos living in the United States, and a lot of them are in the jurisdiction in which I work. And I think, I feel like I have so much to say based on our discussion, but two things ring true, and that's the two issues that were brought to us from Willie Velazquez, and that's political empowerment and institutional building. And while today the focus is on political empowerment, I think mainly we talk about political empowerment because it's so fundamental to other areas of empowerment that we must realize in our community. And that's empowerment in law enforcement agencies, that's empowerment in juridical structures, that's empowerment in other institutions that are so fundamental to determining what rights we will endure. But the immigrant population in the Southeast is also significant in that it represents a large number of our under 18 population. I believe the estimate is about 1/3 of the total Latino population is under the age of 18, and that taken in combination with the fact that our population is largely growing, exponentially growing immigrant population becomes two critical statistics, I believe, in shaping the future agenda in regards to civil rights. And I would also just challenge us on a couple of things. One is, in speaking of civil rights, I also want to speak of human rights, because often when we talk of civil rights, we're talking about constitutional rights and things that might not necessarily exist to everyone in the United States based on immigration status, and that we represent a large continuum of individuals that are U.S. citizens all the way to the individuals that make up a large population of our immigrant population in the Southeast that is undocumented. But two things, because of the exponential growth of the immigrant population in the Southeast, two things come to mind in regards to political empowerment. And one is, what impact has it had on the established Latino community who are U.S. citizens and who are eligible to vote? And the other thing is, what are we talking about when we talk about political empowerment in regards to our immigrant population, and whether we have to look at different ways of defining what political empowerment is in order to ensure that the individuals that are currently contribute to our economy, who are working in our economy, who are paying taxes, who have children in schools, have some type of voice. And they don't have the ability to vote, and often they're not represented, and the individuals who currently are Latino representatives throughout the Southeast may not necessarily represent their interests. So how do we empower them? How do they gain empowerment through the political structures? So first, to the more established Latino communities, and North Carolina comes to mind in the Southeast. North Carolina, out of all of the Southeast states, appears to have some of the most established infrastructure in regards to services to Latinos. So in looking at North Carolina and looking at Georgia, the individuals in our community who are U.S. citizens, are they able to exercise their right to vote right now? Are they empowered politically? And some of the things that we've seen increasingly, despite the passage of the Help America Vote Act in 2002, we've seen in primaries already, there were reported incidents in 2004 where eligible Latino voters were not able to completely exercise their right to vote on a number of levels. And one of the instances in which we've encountered are two counties in Georgia and one county in North Carolina in particular, where individuals who are running for office and other citizens are requesting lists of Latino voters based on Latino surnames or as identified in voter registration forms. And in obtaining these lists, they are challenging whether or not the voter is a citizen, not based on proof, but just based on the mere fact that their last name is Latino or that they identified themselves as Latino. And this is something that we've seen increasingly, and over the last several weeks we've received more and more reports that this has occurred, and we're, as a result, we've started a public service campaign, and we're trying to get information out to our community throughout the Southeast to ensure that they have the right to vote. One of the results of that was that it did have an incredible chilling effect. The individuals who were challenged, even though there was no proof to challenge them other than the fact that they had a Latino surname or marked Latino on their form, was that without proof, the registrars in those particular areas then called for a hearing, despite the fact in Georgia it's required to have a probable cause showing. And a large percentage of the eligible registered Latino voters did not show up to the polls for the primaries, and we believe largely, in fact, due to this particular practice that we've seen that has occurred. Another abuse that we've seen has occurred is confusion over two provisions of the Help America Vote Act, and that's the identification requirement for first-time voters that register by mail, and the provisional ballot. And we believe that a lot of the abuses that have occurred, and when I say abuses, I mean individuals, Latinos, were not able to exercise their right to vote at primaries in 2004. And this largely has occurred because poll workers are not properly educated. There's one example in Chicago, Illinois. 93% of the provisional ballots that were cast were not counted because of technical errors. Affidavits were